So on this week's episode of JMVO Weekly Primer, we are talking to the one, the only, Michael Mercurio, who's actually been a great friend of mine since 2013. He and I started out in the car business together. Well, actually, I started out with him. He taught me a lot of what he essentially helped me make a mortgage payment and everything with everything that he shared with me. We didn't start together, but taught me a lot of the stuff I preach now. Especially the head nod. He taught me all about the head nod. And basically, you got out of the car business, I got out of the car business, and now you are doing something that's really interesting that I always tell people. You are a macro financial engineer. And sometimes you're not exactly enthralled with that definition of what you do, but hey. Hey, do you have any earbuds by chance? Like do
I have any earbuds?
Yeah, with the little microphone on them?
No. Wait. No.
Okay, never mind. We're in your fancy. I mean, I think you get better audio that way, but that's okay. So now
maybe we'll find some.
You find you believe, and this is something that I've shared with a lot of people. I said he believes that everybody, pretty much walking on the planet Earth, has got an additional $7,000 a year to spend. They just don't know it. Does that sound about right?
That's an fairly accurate way to put one of the aspects of what I do, yeah. Macro financial engineering is a lot more accurate overall because that happens to be, the extra income happens to be a byproduct of just doing things right. Yeah. And I teach people how to do things right. Correct.
So not a standalone financial advisor. You see things from a 50,000-foot level.
Funny point, actually, you're bringing up us being friends for a long time. When I first clicked onto Facebook and we were trying to do the whole Facebook Live thing, the first thing that popped up was yours and my anniversary on Facebook today.
Today?
That was kind of ironic.
That's interesting.
That's kind of ironic.
It is ironic. Well, it's coincidental. I don't know if it's ironic. I think it's coincidental. But I'm not going to get into semantics. Tell me about basically the gist of what you do. Talk about what you believe.
All right. One of the first things I'll tell you, and I tell everybody, is that it's impossible for me to explain completely what I do in one meeting. And typically meetings are an hour long. There's just so much that I do. It's simple, but it's complicated on my end because there's so much involvement. But it's really simple. Ultimately, I believe that people don't plan to fail. They just don't actually plan not to fail. They've been taught and marketed to their whole life to do things in the way that benefits others rather than themselves. And I fix that. I give them facts and I give them the truth because, knowledge is power.
What are some of the biggest things that people are missing with their money today that you typically see?
More than anything, it's not that they're missing, it's what they don't know about their money and what they don't know is happening to their money. That's the main problem. It's not that they're missing with their money. Well, they are because all their money is being confiscated. We suffer. Everybody in this country suffers from the same 5 core challenges, and that those challenges are legally stealing and confiscating people's money on a regular basis, on a daily basis. It's inflation, taxation, depreciation, risk, and penalties. Those things are something that everybody suffers from, and it's because they were taught to accept that and taught that that's what's supposed to be the way it is, but it's really not the way it's supposed to be. What happened is, as people come up with products and ways to sell people things, people then buy into those ideas and those things, and those products that people buy into or are marketed to, those products ultimately are benefiting the people who create the products, not the people who are partaking in those products. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. I may have
made that more complicated than necessary.
Does that kind of education start a lot farther down the line than just simply being marketed to? Does it start in high school with the advent of go to college, get a safe, secure job, save for retirement, all that stuff?
It's generational. It's happened for generations. So it's just taught from generation to generation to generation. People are taught the same things over and over again because people believe that's what's right. Once people's eyes are open, it changes things. The top 3% of our country have the majority of the wealth. And then you notice that their children have the wealth. And their children have the wealth. Well, why does it keep staying within those people rather than spreading? Every once in a while you get somebody who finds their way into that group. What is it that's different about that? What happened there that made them suddenly be able to do that? What is it that these people who are wealthy are doing that keeps them wealthy for all time? Mm-hmm. It's because they know things that the rest of the public just doesn't know. And honestly, they're okay with people not knowing. It's not that they're evil or that they're wrong. They're doing what they're doing, and they figured out how to do it, and they're taking advantage of knowledge. And if other people don't have that knowledge, then those people are helping fund the people that have the knowledge.
So it's generally a middle class kind of thing.
It's an everybody thing except for the people in the know.
Well, how did you get into this? Tell the story about that. What led you to this particular point and station in your life? Tell that story.
Okay. Well, I've always been fascinated with finance. I've always been fascinated with money. I've wanted a lot for myself and for my family and for just life. I wanted to do well. And I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. So whenever I realize that things aren't working the way they necessarily are supposed to, or when there's a flaw in a system, I seek out a goal. I seek out a solution to that flaw. And in doing so, I ran into my partner, Dan Stephen, and I became his client. And as we started working through it and started working through a process, rather than worrying about products and rather than worrying about marketing, worrying about having a proper process, following the process that the wealthy use, that big business uses. In doing so, I learned that you can overcome those core challenges, the inflation, taxation, depreciation, risk, penalties. You can overcome those if you just do things right. It's a matter of there's three options. You have three main options. You can find something that you're doing that either monitors the problem, which does nothing. It just means you're seeing what's going on. You're witness to it. It exacerbates the problem or contributes to the problem, or it's a solution to the problem. Those are your three options. So this is something that if anybody who ever talked to me or anybody listens to this, if they pick nothing else out of this, that's what they need to know. They need to think about every time they get marketed to, every time they see a commercial on TV, every time they listen to something on the radio, every time somebody's trying to sell them something or tell them that something is good, they need to go, okay, does this monitor the problem? Does it make the problem, does it contribute to the problem, make it worse? Or does it solve the problem? And my goal is solution. I work in certainty. I don't work in exacerbating problems. That does no good. That's what the entire market does typically.
Well, what was the one thing that you thought was a common sense thing to do that actually turned out to be something else? I mean, you looked at our situation. We wanted to refi our house. But in that situation, it's not often the case where it's the right thing to do, where a lot of people think, well, that's just what I need to do.
Well, it's because they're taught by their previous generation, their parents, that you need to pay off your house. You don't want to have debt. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. You want to do this. You want to contribute to this. It's different for every person, and that's why what I do is so different than what the majority of everything else out there is offered is. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a couple of things. One, I don't charge my clients. If my job is to make you money, not take your money. If I'm taking your money, I'm completely destroying the whole reason that I exist. But that's typically what you'll find. People are marketing something rather than truth. I don't have to market truth. It's the truth. I want to give people the truth. But it's different for every person. What happens is these cookie-cutter, one-size-fits-all things are made, and everybody is told that that's what they should do. Everybody follows the same processes, or at least if you know what a bell curve is, obviously. Mm. Yeah. This wave, on the ends, you have a very small group of, let's say in this case, people, and in the middle you have the majority. Well, if the majority follow what's taught to them by maybe one side of this, then it's going to benefit that side. So you have a few outliers that are doing things differently, and then the masses just follow the thing that the masses are told to do. So pay off your debt. A good example, let's use the mortgage. You have a mortgage, and let's say you have a 30-year mortgage. And again, I'm not saying don't pay off your house. Understand, I'm not giving direction here. I'm not saying you should do this, you shouldn't do this. What I'm saying is that you shouldn't follow what everybody else is doing just because everybody else is doing it. What the truth is that your situation is different from everybody else's situation. My situation is different. The next person I talk to, situation is different. Why follow a cookie cutter method? Actually look into it. Look at it from outside the picture and see what it actually looks like. Look at the picture from outside of the frame and see what's happening in your world, not what's happening based on everybody in the country. It doesn't work that way. So we take a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, let's say. People are always taught, oh, you know, pay extra each month, try to pay off your mortgage early. Well, okay, that sounds fantastic. But what's happening is, as you're putting money into bricks, you're locking your money up in illiquid form. If you want money from that house, what do you have to do? Remortgage those bricks to get the money back out. So in doing so, when you pay off a house, you're in essence locking money into a box. You're keeping it from being able to be used again and again. And the banks want that. The banks want you to pay off the mortgage early because, well, who gets the money? The bank gets the money. That's the whole goal. They want you to pay it off early. Here's the reason. In amortization, an amortization chart, this is going to be fun if people understand this. So some people will get this, some people won't. I'm going to try and not get too complex, but amortization is the way that interest is paid. In the beginning of the loan, more interest is paid, less principal. And over time, that changes. The reason it's set up that way is the banks get more interest up front. So you're paying the bank the majority of the interest on your loan in the first half of the loan. If I were to actually do a chart on this as an example, and I think I may have done it with you, the first third of the loan pretty much pays more than 50%
of the interest
in the entire loan.
Yeah.
What if we were to actually calculate that? What happens is, and this happens time and time again with clients. I showed them this, and again, it's not right, it's not wrong. It's just so you understand. By the last third of the loan, you have a loan on your house at roughly like 1%.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want a loan at 1%? It's almost free money. You're making the payment, but the house is yours. Whether you're at the beginning of the loan or the end of the loan, the house is yours, unless you stop paying.
Right.
But by the way, if you own the house outright and you don't pay your taxes on it, guess what? The house isn't yours. Doesn't really matter.
I have. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. So, but in short, the problem is people are taught to pay it off early. Well, go ahead and pay it off early, but what's happening is you're paying the majority of the interest up front, and then you're getting rid of money really, really cheap, and you're locking it into bricks as opposed to being able to use it again and again.
But this is what we're taught.
That's exactly right. That's what you're taught. But who teaches that? The banks.
Street.
Yeah, that's exactly right. People are constantly bombarded and marketed to and taught things that benefit the people who are teaching it, not the people who are being taught. All I want to do is fix that, because when it's fixed, suddenly you're not in that bell curve, you're not in that massive part. You're now the outliers. You become more knowledgeable, and therefore you're able to be more wealthy. You're able to do things the way the wealthy are doing if you just do it right. So we're here in Nashville. In this example, I'm going to look at the AT&T building downtown, the massive, what they call it, the Bat building or whatever, the huge building. Mm-hmm. That is a billion-dollar company. Do they own that building outright?
I wouldn't say so.
Probably not. Right, because they know how to leverage it. Why would they want all the risk on them? Let the bank hold the risk. They've got the building either way. They're making money from the building. They have write-offs on the interest. What's the difference?
Yeah.
If they own the building outright, that's fully their risk. The banks don't want risk.
Now, this isn't a slam against mortgage companies or anything like that and people who write mortgages. It's just a matter of doing what's right for that particular situation and that person, which are all typically snowflake situations. Is that the most common fire alarm that goes off in your head when you see situations like this? People that want to just, refi their houses when they should be taking out a HELOC or something else?
It's normal. It's what I see all the time. Yeah. And again, and I have no problem with people paying their house off or early. I don't mind. The problem is, again, the way they're taught to do things and the way they're marketed to is not necessarily the most beneficial way. I can take a person who's got a 30-year mortgage or a 20-year mortgage, and they're 50% of the way in. I can show them that they could refinance the house, still pay the house off even earlier than they were intending to, the way they were going to do it, and have more money free.
And
but the banks don't care to show people that.
What we were talking about initially, of your belief that every person's got about an average of $7,000 worth of expendable revenue or income. That's typically what you were finding as you go through this process.
Yeah, I find a bunch of things. What I found over time is that, first and foremost, big surprise, people are lied to. I find that they're marketed to in ways that don't benefit them. And again, look, the insurance agent's job is to sell insurance. The mortgage broker's job is to sell a mortgage. The real estate agent's job is to sell a house. They're not wrong in what they're doing. They're just doing it with a very microscopic view. They have one goal, that. Whereas individuals in life who are just having to do these different things systematically through life are having to partake in those things and trust that that's the right information, that the information that they're being given benefits the person whose job is to ultimately do that thing. It's not right, it's not wrong, it just is what it is. We ultimately, what I do is create systems of strength and liquidity and growth that just enhance people's finances. It enhances their investments by showing them how to have additional pockets of money that they wouldn't have because it's being taken. It's being confiscated on a daily basis. All I do is fix leaks in a bucket. You keep putting money in a bucket as you earn money, and you're carrying around this bucket, but most people don't know there's a bunch of holes in the bucket. They're just pouring that back out. So I show them how to plug those holes, and they actually have overflowing wealth that they can actually use again. So yeah, $7,000 has been a reasonable average that people have found they have that they didn't even realize they had available. Mm-hmm. That the whole time they've been locking money into ways that they can't get that money out, and then they focus on savings, mm-hmm. which is very backwards. You should have money saved and also partake in these other events, but people are taught to do things backwards. I'll use, again, there is no right, there is no wrong. These are just tools. I'll use a 401k as an example. Most of the people I talk to have a 401k with their company. And that's fantastic. There's nothing wrong. It's a 401k. Okay, that's great. It's section 401 paragraph K of the tax law. Mm-hmm. Most people what it is, right. Most people, but almost everybody's doing it. That's what's so amazing. Almost everybody's doing it, but they haven't been taught what it is, how it works, and I have yet to meet a person who knows how to get out of it. Everybody knows how to get into it. You'd be employed. Suddenly, all of a sudden, you're either in it or you have to opt out. It used to be that you had to opt in, and otherwise you weren't. It's becoming more increasingly the way that it's now actually where people are automatically in. They have to opt out, otherwise
they do it because that's what the herd mentality tells them to do. They don't know exactly why they're doing it. They know they're saving for retirement, and there's a whole set of beliefs when it comes to retirement. You know, it's money that you're putting away that, like what you're talking about, you cannot touch until you're, 69, 67.
By the way, when we were talking initially, did you know any of this?
I had a basic idea. I've always had a different way of thinking when it came to money. I never understood, first and foremost, saving for college education that costs in the neighborhood of hundreds of thousands of dollars to graduate and get a job that pays you $35,000. I never understood that. I believe we're in an age where you can learn a lot of different things on your own through all the different facets that we have available to us. I mean, we literally have the world's wealth of knowledge in our pockets at any given time. And it's just up to us whether or not we want to find out and have the hunger to learn this kind of stuff. And as I tell people all the time, marinate your head in the stuff you want to know and positive stuff. When it came to finances, I never understood them. Retirement and It's kind of still a new concept, and I tell people that too. I say, you realize that retirement is only about 40 or 50 years old in terms of it's how people have been thinking about it and putting away money and all this other stuff. But you could be hit by a bus tomorrow. Then there's a lot of things that could happen. All right, there's got to be a little bit of a balance. But people are just so blinded by shoving money away, and every time you put money away, somebody takes a little piece of that money, and it's just a maddening vortex of frustration.
I'm going to use that terminology. I like that. A maddening vortex of frustration.
No, that's what it is. Instead of taking exactly how you look at your house as an asset, a true asset earns you money. It creates some sort of income, or at least gives you the ability, like that I did get from you, to have the ability to invest in something should you have the opportunity. A lot of people don't have that opportunity, or they have the opportunity. They don't have the fuel. They don't have the ability. They don't
necessarily have the knowledge because they haven't been taught that.
The notion of a mortgage, paying a mortgage over time and paying it off as quickly as possible, when you could really be using the value of the house and you're paying a little bit of money versus it's like borrowing on your house. If it's a low interest rate, it's cheap money.
It's using your own money.
Right.
Instead of using bricks and having to wait to get the bricks back into the form of money again, you have the bricks and you get to use your money.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is just one example. And I don't want anybody thinking that, no, you shouldn't pay off your house. Or, yes, I need to do this. Or, yes, I'm not giving advice. I'm just saying there are multiple ways to look at it. The problem is everybody is told to look at it one particular way. Because it benefits who?
The people who are telling them.
Typically. And again, it's not their fault. They're not evil. Mm-hmm. It's just their job. Their job is to make money off of other people. So they tell you something that you should do that benefits them. That's okay. But that's not necessarily what you have to do. If you know different options, then you don't have to necessarily do it.
What's the one thing that frustrates you about your job?
The most frustrating thing in the world to me is the fact that people suffer from comfort.
That's an interesting observation. People suffer from comfort. Wow.
It's a consistent issue. I see it all the time. I talk to people. Huh?
Did you come up with that?
I did. Yeah, it just hit me. Man.
I like it.
It's because it's one of the most frustrating things I've ever dealt with in my life. I never would have imagined it because I don't think like that. Mm-hmm. Most people do. It's not that most people do. It's just that most people don't think about it. You can't have a solution if you keep the problem. It just doesn't work. I'll use the example of a flat tire. So if you're driving down the road, you're starting at point A and you're trying to get to point Z, and you're driving down the road, and while driving down the road towards a goal, you get a flat tire. And you get out of the car and you go, oh man, I got a flat tire. And you look at that tire and you go, but I really like that tire. I don't want to get rid of that tire. It's still kind of a tire. I can creep my way there. That's what most people are doing. If they even notice they have a flat tire, they just go, it's still a tire and I'll deal with it. It's more comfortable to just keep the tire than it is to actually get out and change the tire. It's changing and becoming more knowledgeable and learning things that break your comfort zone it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to break out of your comfort zone.
But
I see it all the time. Yeah, the red pill, the blue pill, it's the same thing. I have so many people that I've talked to, potential clients, that they're like, oh man, yeah, I know I'm doing things wrong. And I'll talk to them and say, why are you where you are today? Who got you there? Well, I did. Okay. Is it possible that that's because you did the best you can with the knowledge you've been given? That's okay. That's normal. It's not your fault. You've been given X amount of knowledge. You know this. You don't know that this other stuff exists outside. So you've done the best you can with what you've been given. Well, don't you want knowledge that will allow you to think outside of that box, to break the norm and actually be the outlier, to be those endpoints on the bell curve? And most people go, yeah, I'd like that. And they never do. because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to spend a little bit of time to improve their lifestyle substantially. The $7,000 that you talk about as an example is a good example, but I mean, honestly, it's everybody's focused nowadays on rate of return. What's the rate of return? Well, I can show you an average rate of return of 25% and you lose money. It doesn't matter. The problem is people are marketed to, again, in the wrong way. But the point is, if people spend a little bit of time educating themselves or being educated by a specialist who knows things that they might not know, that little bit of time they spend equates to what I see on average, a 40% increase in retirement income just for that period of time, just for that little bit of time they spend with me, because they suddenly learn to do things differently. I mean, literally an average of 40% increase in retirement income. I mean, have you ever heard anybody say they want, I need to make sure I have income streams at my retirement? You've heard the term income stream?
I have.
Okay. I don't want an income stream. I want an income river. Who wants a stream? Have you ever seen a stream? I want to be fed off of a stream. No, I want a freaking gushing river.
The Mississippi.
Because if I do it right, that's what I'll get. Mm-hmm. Instead of giving everyone else my money, instead of giving inflation, taxation, depreciation, risk, and penalties, and all these things my money, I get to keep my money.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. It starts. What do people need to? What is one takeaway you want people to have from this interview to start thinking about? What's like a thought starter for them to start marinating their mind in regarding their money?
Well, a couple things. The first thing, again, the initial takeaway I talked about, which is ask yourself: does this exacerbate the problem? Does it monitor the problem? Or does it solve the problem? Any example for 1K, does it solve inflation, taxation, depreciation, risk, penalties? Well, maybe not. Okay, does it just monitor them? You get to see what it's doing. Does it contribute to the problem? Do you pay taxes on it? Well, at some point you're going to. Is it going to be higher or lower? So that's an example. Again, 401ks are not bad. I'm just giving it as an example. When you're being sold something, when you're being marketed to, ask those three questions. Is it solving my problem? Is it just looking at the problem, monitoring it? Or is it contributing to the problem? If you at least are cognizant of it, you have a chance to break free of that box, to break free of the picture and see it from outside of the frame. That's the main takeaway. That'd be my second main takeaway. The main takeaway is, here's the deal. You do what you do for a living. You're a specialist at it, or you need to focus on being a specialist at it. If it's not what I do, then whenever I need to do what you're doing, I need a specialist at it, so I would need to see you. If your specialty is not focusing on the things that I've been talking about, then you need to see a specialist. You need to see somebody who does that for a living. If I get a brain tumor, I am not going to operate on myself. And Jim, I'm not going to ask you to do it because I love you, but that's not your specialty. I'm going to seek out a specialist. We want the best for ourselves whenever it comes to anything, but we rarely ever seek out a specialist. It's mind-blowing. We think we have the answer in all things, but we don't.
Yeah.
We need to find those people who do. Honestly, that's just really it. It's not complicated. You can't know everything. We don't have enough time on this earth. We've not been given enough time on this earth to know everything. We do every once in a while get a glimpse at truth, and we have an opportunity to get truth. Truth is the one thing that we have that combats everything. Truth is your sword and shield against chaos. Jordan Peterson, very wise man.
And I love that. People suffer from their comfort. I like that a lot. So basically, people who are listening to this, think uncomfortably. Get out of your zone, get out of your comfort bubbles, and start thinking differently about your money. Are you just putting money away for the sake of putting it away because somebody told you to do it? Or do you want to have access to that money at an earlier age and a lot more copious amounts of it, depending on your situation? That's the whole message I'm taking, is that every situation is completely different. Every situation. It's not cookie cutter. And, I've met with you on several occasions, and I tell people all the time, maybe you don't want people knowing this, but, we haven't paid him a dime yet. I mean, he's just been guiding us, and it's been working for us, and I thank you for that. So it's
my pleasure. I'm glad.
Yeah, it's definitely given us a different way of thinking about things, that's for sure. Especially that we're getting into this kind of stuff at somewhat of a late age, but, anyway.
It's never too late, and it's never too early.
Yeah, you got to start.
It's rare that it's somebody young. I will tell you that. It's almost impossible. When I get somebody who is young, who wants to focus on this, I get thrilled. I get giddy because I'm like, oh my gosh, if everybody would have known this when they were young, if they would just start young. The problem is when you're young, you're immortal. Yeah. When I was 24, 25, I was invincible, man. I was like, I'm good. I'm making money. I'm doing blah, 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 whatever. No.
Yeah.
And I know back then what I know now.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to do that for others. I'm trying to let them know now what they should know as soon as possible.
Yeah. Well, Mike, where can people find you and contact you for any more information about what you do?
Okay, it's at the longest email on the face of the planet. It's at Michael, Michael, at danstephenassociates.com.
Okay.
It's DANSTEPHEN and associates.com.
And I'll put a link down below in the description. So on the podcast, if you're listening to this, it should be in the actual description as well as on the YouTube and Facebook links so that people can reach out to you. Also, people can follow you on the Twitters and the Instagrams with Human Loop is your ID, correct?
It is not on Twitter because Twitter freaks me out. But yeah, I'm on Instagram, but it has nothing to do with business because I don't give business advice without understanding how it's affecting people individually.
It's a face-to-face
fun.
Yeah.
Also, you can check out our website if you'd like. It tells you a bit about us. It's sandawealth.com. So Sanda, SANDA, wealth.com.
Very good. Well, Mike, thanks for spending some time on this Sunday with us. And, if anybody wants to reach out to him, definitely do. I certainly recommend it.
Please do.
Start thinking differently about your money because somebody else certainly thinks very much of your money. And unfortunately, most of the times, it's not us.
Right.
All right. Thanks you for joining us on this episode 3 of JMVO Weekly Primer. We will be talking to somebody else next week. I just haven't figured out who, but stay tuned and follow us along, subscribe, rate us, and also leave some comments if you can. Thank you very much, Mike. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Jim, thank you. Good talking to you.